following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and it's my privilege to introduce another episode of Bay Area Press Box in the Zone. We have two of the hosts with us today. One is pharmacist Jerry Feitelberg, pharmacist, journalist, sports guy Jerry Feitelberg. Fitting that you're here today, Jerry, because we got medical stuff going on all day and night, and maybe you could help calm us down a little bit, or at least give us some pragmatism, so we're not fooled into thinking that everything is honky-dory. You're here along with Michael Duca, jack of all trades in the press box, most prominently official scorer for Bay Area teams, both the Giants and the A's, and kind of on sabbatical. Start with you, Jerry. What's going on? You guys have a great show.
Well, thank you, Ralph. It's a privilege to be able to do the show, and Michael, good to have you back from the desert. And Ralph wanted to know what's going on with the coronavirus. It's now starting to get exponential in the United States with a number of cases, and with more testing, we'll have even more cases. And we in Northern California and through most of California, we're in shelter in place, and the whole economy is ground to a halt for the most part. So it's a sad state of affairs, and I think that we're still lacking direction at the federal level. Governor Newsom is trying to do his best, but we need things. We need more swabs. We need more ventilators, because the virus is going to peak sooner rather than later, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Hopefully the baseball season will start in mid-May, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. Any thoughts on that, Michael?
Well, I have thoughts on a whole variety of things. First of all, I guess I now qualify as a first responder because I drove from a non-infected area towards danger when I came home. I'm not sure how wise that was, but I guess it's good to be home, even though I'm pretty much on house arrest here.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree with you that things are exponential. I would slightly modify what you said in that we're not going to have more cases now because there's more testing. We're going to know more about the cases that we've always had.
Right.
I mean, testing isn't going to increase the number of people who have it. It's just going to help us understand how widespread it's always been. And I'm optimistic about this while remaining realistic about it. I went to the store today. I went to Trader Joe's and to Costco, and there was toilet paper at Costco, even though the sign said there wasn't. There's bottled water again. Trader Joe's had some packages of pasta. Costco had 25-pound bags of rice. Everybody had produce. Everybody had meat. Everybody had dairy. Everybody had eggs. So I am hopeful that the first drastic burst of idiotic panic buying is over, and now we can just settle down to normal maintenance panic buying.
Yeah, I think you're right in that regard. Costco the Costco near us started restricting the toilet paper sales to 2 packages per person and 2 cases of water, which made sense. And so once people realize...
Yeah, it's 1 of each today.
Yeah, well, people have to understand that the stores get deliveries every day. The stuff is out there, it's being manufactured and produced, and it's going to get to the stores. There's no need to stock up on the stuff. It's going to be coming through.
Exactly.
Exactly. And the
I mean, any shortage that exists because people created it.
Exactly. There's no real shortage. We'll be fine in that regard. People do have to be careful. People over 65 are more vulnerable because they may have underlying conditions that if they did become infected could cost them their lives. So the grocery stores are having senior hours a couple days a week to help make it easier for seniors to go out and to get the stuff that they need. So that's a good thing. So reasonable approaches are being taken. The problem that we have with this particular virus is that we have no immunity to it, none whatsoever, and we have to eradicate it. Even if there's one case left somewhere in the world, it started with one case and spread it. It could redo it because we don't have the immunities, and there's 7.7 billion people. So that's why.
Well, one of the things
while.
that has been discussed. One of the things that has been discussed and that is being done on a limited basis in China is they turned the page back to 1918, and in 1918 the way they treated the Spanish flu was that since there was no vaccine, since nobody even understood about vaccines, what they did was that they collected blood from people who had survived it and spun it off into plasma and injected the plasma into people who were actively and seriously ill. And it fundamentally what they were doing was they were spinning out the antibodies that people had developed and injecting them into people. And that is one thing that's being done now. Another thing that's being done, a paper was published today, and amazingly, our president was all over it and talked about it in his press conference today. But a paper was published today out of Australia that Australian researchers had tried a cocktail of drugs that included an old line drug that was used to treat malaria that's hardly used anymore because the human population is developing chloroquinidine.
No, chloroquine. Yeah.
Chloroquine. Okay. And it's not used much anymore because the human population is beginning to develop herd immunity to malaria. But that, along with a pair of antivirals that are used to treat the HIV retrovirus, have seemingly, at least anecdotally in Australia, had extraordinary success at wiping out the virus. People who were actively shedding the virus are completely clear of it in 72 hours with these treatments. So lots of stuff is being tried. I'm sorry?
Yeah, Gilead over in Foster City is working on that antiviral that they use in the HIV people.
That's a different one. That's actually a different one. And that's good news also, because there are bound to be ways to corral this and to lessen it. The bad news is it's a pandemic. The good news is that means everybody's trying to find something, and the more people that look, the faster someone will find something that will have an effect on this. Even if it doesn't eliminate it, if it lessens the symptoms or slows down the spread or flattens the curve, all of those things are important.
Yeah, again, flattening the curve is important so it will not overload the hospitals, because we don't have enough ventilators, we don't have enough swabs. We have a whole lot of shortages right now. That will give us time to get stuff ready to treat people down the road. But again, another thing though that we do have right now is that we do have technology that we've never had before. We do have the ability, and we've used it in I think it was in Spain, but it might have been in Italy, where there were problems that they didn't have enough valves for the ventilators that they did have in stock, and a group of technologists came into the hospital, looked at the valves, slightly redesigned them, and 3D printed a dozen in 10 hours. Yeah, I saw that, and that in Italy. Was the 3 or 4 young scientists did that and fixed it right away.
Right, and so that capability is there. Today, Elon Musk said, we build automobiles with the most sophisticated HVAC systems in the world. We build spacecraft that are designed to go to space and return safely. Making ventilators, while complicated, is something we can absolutely do in our factories, and if we are asked to, we will start cranking them out at a spectacular pace.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's capability out there.
One of the problems is that I'm hearing, or I read today, that the hospitals are leery of buying or investing in these respirators and buying more than they need in regular times because they'll have all this money invested. So there's got to be, maybe the federal government has to have a repository for the excess that's produced during this time, so that we can get the respirators needed.
Well, not only that, you know, isn't it fascinating to you, Jerry, that 2 months ago Andrew Yang was considered a crazy outlier because he wanted to give everybody $1,000 a month, and now the president's proposing it?
Well, it's just 2 payments. It's not going to be forever.
Well, yeah, it's just 2 payments until it's more. You know, I mean, for goodness sake, I can't believe that this administration decided that it was wise to give money directly to people instead of handing all the money to corporations and telling them to trickle it down. But thank goodness somebody's thinking outside the box a little.
Yeah, and people like Mark Cuban are saying that the money that the corporations got should not be used to buy back their stock, because that was one of the things that fueled the stock market higher, because there was less stock to buy, and people who wanted Apple stock would be paying more for it they get their shares of stock. But right now, while the stock market is down and a lot of people's 401ks and retirement funds and what have you are in jeopardy, I still have to believe that at some point the panic will level off and things will get back to normal, but it's going to take a lot longer than we would anticipate.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Meanwhile, Mark Cuban kind of got things started, saying that he was going to make sure that his Day of Game employees were all taken care of for at least a period of time. And now other entities are following suit. Major League Baseball owners collectively have pledged $1 million per team to help compensate Day of Game employees, which is ushers, ticket takers, security people, maintenance people, all of that, janitorial staff. But the great news is that in some cities the players have stepped up to match, and the teams are going out to their major corporate sponsors and asking them to match also. And if they're able to put together a package of, let's say, $3 million to cover Day of Game employees, that's, in many cities, that's going to cover employees for as much as half the season.
Yeah, it's a good thing what they're doing. There's no question about that. And some of the players have pitched in too from the NBA. Didn't Steph make a contribution and KD make a contribution? And by the way,
Steph made a contribution. KD contributed a swab that tested positive. But Kevin Love and I'm blanking on names right at the moment. Used to be with the Clippers and is now with Detroit.
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin, yes. Each of them had donated significant sums. But in Major League Baseball, the major leaguers are not only getting together to help out with the Day of Game employees, they're also working on trying to find ways to help out minor league players who literally don't get paid this year. They don't get paid till the games start, and there aren't any games. Now, the Giants, I know, have announced that they are going to be doing some things something for their minor league players. I'm not clear yet on what it is, but they are looking into helping them out. And I know John Shea wrote the other day in the Chronicle that they are keeping camp facilities open down in Scottsdale to help the players who, if they return to their homes, would then have visa problems.
Sure. They couldn't get back to the country. Sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a dicey situation all around. All the people that are the restaurant workers, they did a feature this morning on Cantor's Deli in L.A. They employ about 150 people. They kept the bakery open. The people can go in and buy their baked goods, but the restaurant is closed. But they said we're going to be open 24/7 and we're going to have to-go orders. But they've cut their staff in half to about 75 people, and the 75 people, their hours have been cut too. So all these people...
Well, if you've ever been to Cantor's, you know that if they stay open very long for takeout only, that Home Depot will run out of buckets to put the matzo ball soup in. I think that each serving is about 5 gallons.
Yeah, well, for sure. Yeah, you don't get cheated at Cantor's. You get a terrific meal.
No.
Been there many times. But it's a sad situation, and it's, as you say, some people are getting to have symptoms of cabin fever, getting stir crazy because.
And it's only day 4.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not.
It's only day 4, and this will go on for at least another 65 to 85 days. So.
Yeah. But that's when it peaks, and it will slow down. But remember, the virus is still out there, and you still have to be very careful not to be anywhere near any infected people. It's not going to be. It has to go away. We have to eradicate it. Simple as that. Because it will come back, and that it took on the Spanish flu. It took 3 years to get rid of it, and it killed 650,000 Americans. So it's a very serious situation that's going on right now.
Yeah, on the plus side, I haven't, and part of this I think is just because nothing is as crowded as it was a week ago. But the sense that you get people driving down the road or going through the grocery store with you are operating under the premise that they're alone on the planet seems to have dissipated. People are being more cautious, more careful, more thoughtful, more aware. And that's a kind of a pleasant thing to see.
Yeah, it's a good thing
despite the motivation for it.
Yeah, we're all in this together. This is it doesn't matter. This is not a red state, blue state thing. It's not partisan. It's everybody's got the same problem. You can't get the virus, and especially for elderly people who are more susceptible. The death rate for the elderly is around, and especially in Italy, is around 15%. It's unbelievable. And I just
one of this that I have noticed, Jerry. I mean, there's so many different ways to measure things, as we know from our sports that we used to rely on batting averages, and now we have batting averages on balls in play. We have range factors, and we have WAR and WAR plus and OPS plus and all of that. Well, in this instance, one of the things to look at is the model in South Korea. South Korea managed to maintain holding this to pretty much one major affected city, and they opened up testing very fast, and they made drive-through testing available and results available in a couple of hours and a whole lot of other things. But when you look at the very bottom line on this for mortality and morbidity rates, one thing that you notice is that in South Korea, there are about 55 hospital beds per 1,000 people. In Italy, there are only 27 hospital beds per 1,000 people, half the penetration.
Right.
And that's why Italy is so important for us to watch, because you know what the ratio is in the United States?
I think it's 22 beds per 1,000.
23 and a half per 1,000, that's right. It is 3.5 fewer than Italy. So
yeah,
all of those people who have spent their whole lives under the presumption that they live in the country with the best health care in the world are about to have their settings recalibrated.
There's just not enough ICU beds available.
Right.
Governor Cuomo in New York was correct, in my opinion, to have the Army Corps of Engineers set up some hospitals wherever they could find space to put them up. Some of the people have suggested that the cruise ships be brought in and they use them as hospitals because they're not sailing. So you could do that to give you space to treat people. And it's not a bad idea.
It's just psychological right at this to hear, oh, you're sick, we're going to put you on a cruise ship to take care of you.
Well,
so far, that hasn't worked well.
Yes. Some of the stadiums are also empty. They could set up a temporary field hospital for those people, too. So there are places that can be used and places where you can put a lot of people. It may not be the most ideal situation, but right now, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see, I don't know if you're going to see any stadiums putting people in tents on the fields or anything like that, but I think what you might begin to see is utilization of the parking lots around them. You could certainly use those for anything from staging drive-through food banks to drive.
Oh yeah. You're breaking up, Michael.
And there's a lot of empty concrete there right now.
Yeah, your cell phone's breaking up, so it was a little garbled. But the gist of it was you want to use the parking lots for drive-through food stations and other things testing stations and whatever is necessary to serve the people to get through this.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Jerry? Because actually yours is breaking up. I'm on a landline.
You're on the landline, so it must be my thing is breaking up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we ought to finish this up, and then I'll call you back. I'm at Isla's house, so I don't know if I can use her landline. Maybe we could do it, or we can do it just finish it up for Ralph. It'd be a little bit shorter than normal.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of stuff to talk about. We can certainly, we can do a very quick update and say that baseball is proceeding in Japan, in the Pacific League, and in Korea, the KBL. Those leagues are going to open in another week or so, and for people who are seriously jonesing for baseball, you can look on YouTube and the KBL. I think the Pacific League in Japan has a streaming website where you can not understand probably anything about what's being said, but you could understand the game that's being played in front of you. Another set of news is that the Kentucky Derby has been postponed to October, and the PGA tournament in San Francisco has been postponed, they hope, until later in the summer. if it becomes impossible to play it here, they will move it to another venue and return it to San Francisco as soon as they can.
Oh yeah, this is really grim, the situation. We were supposed to go on a 10-day tour of Vienna and Salzburg starting in October. It was a group of 20 people that were going. 3 of the people have declined to go, so they're thinking of postponing that till the spring next year. So we'll see what happens. This is happening everywhere. Everything's being pushed back in the hopes that this will blow over. And with a little luck, we'll get there. But we need a lot of luck. We need a lot of work, and we need a lot of direction, both at the state and federal level. The mayors and the governors of the various states have been doing super jobs, but they can't do it alone. They need someone at the federal level to coordinate the efforts and make sure that all the states, everybody that needs the stuff is going to get it.
Right, and that response also needs to be nuanced. I mean, it is perfectly reasonable for a shelter-in-place order to exist in New York City and in San Francisco, but I'm not entirely certain that it's needed in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And, you know, those states that can still participate in and maintain the economy, that's also pretty important.
Oh, for sure. My daughter is up at my house in Mendocino, and they're in shelter in place now. But they're, for the most part, it was relatively safe up there. They only have one case of the coronavirus in the county, so it's getting there. But right now, things are in place. But the restaurants are closed, and it's hurting that economy. Maybe in Northern California, out by Eureka and Humboldt County, it may not be up there, may not be as bad, and they should have some economic activity going until order to slow it down.
Exactly. Well, for the nonce, stay safe, wash your hands.
Yeah. Oh.
And as I heard somebody say today in Trader Joe's, I have so much alcohol on my hands in the last week, they're going to have to go to rehab.
Yeah, well, just be careful and do the best you can. Stay well, and just like Phil Esterhaus used to say at the end of his roll call on Hill Street Blues, be careful out there.
Be careful out there. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will chat with you next week, sir. Take care.
Okay, Michael. Look forward to it. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.